what do you feel about the statement if this country is racist?
No, because it's not. As soon as somebody says anything racist, that's remotely racist, the whole media attacks them and everyone cuts their head off.
I do, yes. Like I have a Muslim friend who was disparaged by our teachers.
And I think you can kind of divide it into the government and the people. Like the government, like sure, the U.S. has a history of racist policies. Like
My name's Jose. Your name is?
Miles Moretti.
Miles
Moretti is my name.
Miles Moretti. Okay.
Look me up on Instagram.
I will. I promise.
I'm not
you.
afraid of publicizing my opinions.
Okay. Okay.
Go ahead and try to cancel me.
Okay. So the conversation is going to be, what do you feel about the statement if this country is racist?
No,
So what makes you believe in that?
because it's not. As soon as somebody says anything racist, that's remotely racist, the whole media attacks them and everyone cuts their head off. And it doesn't happen anymore. We don't live in that day and age. Unless you go somewhere in some countryside place where there's no media, there's no educated people. No, just people who are not so. I don't want to say it in English. People who have not seen so many things. Yeah, well versed.
Yeah. So
The world is so, especially our country, is so diverse now. There's different types of cultures everywhere. And anyone that says anything that's slightly even considered racist, like if I said that, for example, if I asked you the question, okay, is it racist for me to say that a black person is very articulate?
They're articulate? No, I don't think so.
Okay, but people will say it's racist. So as soon as you touch on something that is even slightly, little bit insy teensy wincy, even a little bit racist, they will call you out on it. So no, it's not a racist country.
So but don't you think that? What makes you feel that way so passionately? Is it your personal experience? Have you ever dealt with racism? Have you seen
Passionate about everything.
Yeah. Okay.
I grew up in the Midwest, and it was terrible. That was 30 years ago. Like every single day, the worst Chinese jokes you could possibly think of were thrown my way for like 7 or 8 years. I hated going to school. It was terrible. But it's no longer that way.
But do you not think maybe those views are still there, but they are just more hidden?
Well, people are discriminatory naturally. People are, they have herd mentality naturally. That's what people are. They don't like outsiders. That's just how it is. It's normal. And being a country with so many different types of cultures in it, it's going to naturally occur this sort of 碰撞.
But do you think tension?
Yeah, just like.
But do you think that tension is good? Do you think we should focus on trying to remove that tension?
We talk about it too much, it only makes it worse. There's no point in talking about it so much and making it like. Sometimes I believe that people publicize it so much and purposefully dig at these issues in media when it's not even prevalent anymore. Just shut up about it, it'll go away. It's like black people in the N-word. The only people that are allowed to say it is them. So if they stop saying it, nobody's gonna ever say it again.
Have things like that. But so what if someone said something to your grandma? Or directly to your grandma.
Well, if someone insults my grandma in any way, regardless of her race, it's still wrong.
But what if it's like a subtle comment? Do you think that still happens on a day-to-day basis?
Sure, people have their own right to say whatever they want. I think people have the right to say whatever they want. It's not an issue of racism. It's an issue about learning how to not be offended by other people's thoughts. The world is not a nice place, and I think in America we're trying to protect everyone and create this Nerf ball environment where everyone's like, I've never seen anyone. I've been around the world in every single country. I've never seen anyone as sensitive as an American.
Was that always the case in your perspective?
It's a gradual decline because people get. There are more and more policies put into place. There are more and more safety nets put into place to encourage people to be more sensitive. It's not how the world is. Go to Europe. Go to South Africa.
How are those countries then?
They don't give a shit about your feelings. You go to South Africa and they'll roll in the window, they'll drive by a group of black people and say, "What are you blackies up to?" It's not, it's not racist. That's just how we live in this stupid, twisted, overly sensitive society today, and I think it creates weak-minded men, and it causes people to not be manly anymore, especially men. And it's bad for society. That's why it's heading the way it is now. People are too sensitive, too emotional.
So your solution, I guess, for this conversation about racism, what would it be? Just not talk about it, or what would it be exactly? What would be the final, the thing that would remove this problem in your mind?
I think fathers need to teach their sons how to be good men. And as long as the father is there, at least sometimes, to teach their sons to be good men, to learn how to discriminate the right way, because there is correct discrimination.
Like what?
Patriotism. Putting value in your bloodline. There's nothing wrong with homogenous countries trying to keep other races out. I think there's nothing wrong with that, because it's as soon as you have a country like America, don't get me wrong, okay? America is a good place because everyone before they had one thing that they all fought for. And that was the Constitution. But now 99% of people do not even understand the Constitution. Go to any university, Yale, Stanford, Harvard, and I will challenge any of those professors to a debate on the Constitution and the origins of human rights and, for example, the political theory behind the Constitution. Do you know who the Founding Fathers wrote the Constitution's philosophy based off of?
I don't know.
No, nobody knows. And the basis for which the Constitution stands is the philosophy of this certain person, his treatise on politics. And that's what the Bill of Rights, the Declaration of Independence, was written based upon. And those are the basis and foundation by which we have human rights. For example, the right to free speech. You can say whatever you want because of this philosophy by John Locke. And that's what they based it off of.
But question about the framework about it. If you're talking about the framework of this country, wasn't it founded specifically for white European Englishmen to not be enslaved, or it was for their English rights specifically?
Yeah, and China was founded for the rights of Chinese people.
So
Africa was founded for the rights of African people. Wherever you go, there can be tribes of people. What am I supposed to do every time I start a new country? I have to consider every single race in the entire world? This is my tribe. This is my bloodline. This is my legacy. That's how people are. People are tribal. They came here and they protected the rights for their own people. Well, sure, and then later Africans came over and all these other people came over. There's nothing wrong with that. But as long as everyone fights for the same thing, which is the Constitution, then we have something that in common that we fight for, that we strive towards. But right now, nobody strives towards. Everyone is individualistic in America. What are we fighting for together?
Money.
Well, everybody in the world wants money.
Yeah.
What separates America from the rest of the world? What separates China from the rest of the world? They're all Chinese and they all stand for it. If you're not Chinese, get out. If you're not Korean, get out. If you're not Japanese, get out. You know, they can say that openly and there's nothing wrong with it. And I don't believe there's anything wrong with it. You can come into our country. If you're Chinese, they will say this. You come to our country, we'll be your friends, we'll love you, we'll hang out with you, we'll be nice to you. You can earn money and do business with us here, and we'll treat you well. But you're not Chinese. I'm sorry. This is our country. And there's nothing wrong with that. So if we come to America, people are from different, diverse culture backgrounds. So instead of saying, oh, you're not American, you can't come here, we should say, you're not patriotic towards America. You're not. What does it mean to be American? It's not a race.
But do you think America is specifically different because we're such a non-homogeneous culture?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. So the question is.
So they need to fight for something in common, which is the Constitution. That's what it means to be an American.
Yeah, but what if people don't want that?
Then get the fuck out. Like, if you are in America, you need to understand what a true American is. And to understand what a true American is, you need to understand, regardless of the color of your skin, you need to understand the philosophies laid forth by the founding fathers who founded this republic. If you agree with these philosophies, then you are an American. It doesn't matter what race you are, but you have to agree with these. The issue right now is America is divided because we don't understand the Constitution and we do not stand together upon the Constitution. We're divided because education sucks. Okay. Shucks. I said shucks. It sucks. All public education does not teach the Constitution properly. The amount of people I talk to on the streets in America or anywhere in the world that I meet that are American, they do not understand the first thing about the Constitution and the reason why we must protect it and what human rights is and where it comes from. Nobody understands that anymore. We need to go back to the Constitution. That is what holds us together. That is what binds us, and that is the only thing that will save this country. Not Biden, not Trump, not Obama, not Bush. Doesn't matter whatever president comes next. If the whole country does not stand together on the Constitution, we will fall eventually. And I guarantee it. If you look at history, every empire falls eventually. America needs to stand on the Constitution. Get educated. Thank you.
Appreciate the conversation. Thank you.
I'm not racist.
Yeah, I hope not.
But even if I was, I don't care what you think.
My name is Jose, and your name is?
Carson.
Carson. So the conversation is going to be about, do you believe this country is racist?
I do, yes.
What makes you feel like this country is racist then?
Well, I do see a lot of experiences of people of different races, like online and stuff, and I have friends of people who are different races, and I've witnessed them treated differently. Like I have a Muslim friend who was disparaged by our teachers, and she went to school in Maine, which is very white, and while she wasn't like actively ostracized, nobody really understood her perspective as important, and even just like politically, seeing how different politicians have been treated based on their race, I find it hard to believe that a lot of this stuff isn't racially motivated.
Have you always thought this, or was this like a new framework that you came to believe in?
I've always thought this. I mean, when I was younger, I obviously didn't like have the perspective, you know, because I'm white, you know. As I grew up, particularly when I was in high school, the shooting in Florida happened, and the conversation, the Black Lives Matter movement started. And at first, I didn't really understand the perspective because I didn't see it. But like I sat back and listened to what people were saying, and the more and more I watched, the more and more I heard, the more and more I realized that police brutality, specifically against people of color, was a very real thing. And while I had always believed that there was some degree of racism in the United States, the events there really had me examining the implications of that beyond just the fact that racism exists.
What have you done to maybe combat this, you know, racist ideology in your mind?
In my mind?
Yeah.
I mean, I've never really had racist tendencies, but the efforts that I have done personally are mostly around making people feel like they can be comfortable, and that it's okay if I fully don't understand, but I want to understand if they want to tell me, but they're also not obligated to, you know? And like, I've never really had racist tendencies in my mind, but I guess what I've worked on more is making that more an external behavior on my part.
Like empathy, more empathy?
Like, well, more empathy, but more letting people know that they don't need to be uncomfortable about that stuff around me. Not tolerating that type of stuff with like members of my family and stuff.
Has that been difficult, you know?
Not too difficult. My own family is not particularly racist, but there are some elements of my husband's family that are like that, more like the benign type of racism. You know?
Can you give me like an example? What you know,
One of my husband's relatives is like a teacher, and she spends a lot of time like helping her students. She works in like the inner cities in Houston, you know, with like high black populations.
Very difficult, you know.
Yeah, and she has like, you know, she's babysitted kids, you know, like I've helped her babysit kids, but sometimes there are like these comments like, and you know, they're black, so blah, 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 you know? And like, I know that she doesn't like realize that bias exists in her, and she doesn't really realize that it's damaging. But she's a member of my family, so I know a lot of people say just cut those people out of your life, but I try to take the stance of if I just cut those people out of my life, then that's just somebody with racial bias that I've just let out.
They won't change.
Know? They won't change. So like, I try to like, you know, challenge those things. And it's easier because like this person doesn't want to be racist. They're just raised with these types of ideology, you know, but I feel like it's my responsibility as a white person and as somebody with like white family members to challenge that, and in a way that doesn't just start conflict, you know.
Is it hard to make like get a middle ground in that? You know, sometimes because you know, it almost sounds like you have to walk in eggshells because you don't want to push the person away too much.
Yeah. I think that what I do most is just, I don't approach it like, oh, you're wrong, you're doing something bad. I'm like, oh, well, I think that can sometimes make this group of people feel like that, you know? So I'm not sure they would appreciate that. You know what I mean? So, because like, a lot of like the people in my life who have like racial biases, they don't want to be racist, but they feel so bad if they like have these biases that it's easier for them just to deny it rather than examine themselves and
Like a deeper conversation.
Yeah, but I know that I would rather have those hard conversations than just continue to be wrong and hurt people that way. So
Very empathetic, very kind, I would say.
thank you. I try to be.
Yeah.
I
Well,
try to be.
I appreciate the conversation. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Enjoy the rest of your day. My name's Jose. Your name is?
Noor.
Noor. So the conversation is going to be about, do you feel like this country is racist? Sure. Well, your personal feelings. Yeah, if you want.
I think it's a very broad question, right? And I think you can kind of divide it into the government and the people. Like the government, like sure, the U.S. has a history of racist policies. Like for example, like you go back to to slavery, for example, which was a big thing. Which is, it's not something you can necessarily separate from our country's history. Like it's integral. And for example, like policies related to immigration, in the past and in the present, that can be seen as racist. Support for racist regimes across the world, like apartheid Israel, and whatnot. The people, sure, I guess there's like that kind of, there's a cultural aspect of it too. Like there are some people who are racist, like you have like the KKK, you have other groups that espouse these racist ideologies, but you also have like counter-racist movements too in the United States. And I'd say like the dominant ethic right now probably is that most people aren't racist. Most of America, meaning the people, aren't that racist. And although I guess in popular culture, it's been kind of, what's the word, like turned into like a humorous thing almost, racism. Like it's like casual racism becomes like kind of a joke. So that is a thing too, among the youth at least.
Does that bother you, that kind of casual racism, or are they like, whatever?
I mean, I've experienced it in the past. Like, well, it was more like an actual like, active, like I was discriminated against in middle school and stuff. No, it's fine. It was just like casual middle school things, you know, kids say things, yeah. I mean, it affected me, but looking back, it wasn't like a harmful thing. Like I wasn't like physically discriminated.
Yeah.
I wasn't traumatized by it. No. It's an issue. Yeah. I mean, I think it's an issue, but it's not. I wouldn't characterize the entire country as racist as a result of that.
So I know you mentioned your personal experience about that casual racism. What about your family? What about your parents, you know?
I think, okay, so my mom's a doctor, right? And I believe she has experienced a little bit of racism in the workplace. Like she had a boss in the past that would be exceptionally rude to her. Like he would be like almost abusive as a boss and whatnot. And it wasn't like that to any other doctor. And she's Muslim. She has an accent. She's practicing, so that could be a part of it too. I think there is a degree of systematic racism. That's another thing. Like you have like racist sympathies policies built into the actual system, which is a thing too. And that's something that we're working to kind of
Counterbalance, you know?
Exactly.
And it takes time, right?
It does take time. It takes time. It takes a paradigm shift. Like you have to change the like the way people think about racial interactions and other people and stuff like that.
So are you hopeful about the future just because you yeah.
I'm always optimistic about the future. I think we move towards, we try our best to move towards good, whatever that might be.
Hey, thanks, man.
Of course.
Thank you.
I'm a racism and he says Japanese, I'd be like, racist!
No, I try to.
Gotcha.
No, I try to